Hey guys, this is DFD, aka Dark Frozen Depths, back with another Kamihime project video. Now, before I even get into the second half of the 4 tier souls, this is just all the more reason why you probably need them, because yeah, DMM's newest content is looking very brutal. It's definitely harder than the Guardians, I can say that for sure. And given what I'm seeing, it's crazy. First off, some enemies may actually have more HP than the Guardians. And you also cannot debuff with attack, defense, attribute effects, or charge turn increase, or blind. Just pretty much assume you can't even debuff. Just assume you can't debuff. So yeah, this is going to be very hardcore. This is all the more reason why I need to get this video out here, because we on the Nitaku side is a lot weaker than what DMM was when they were at our same point. So yeah. Oh, did I mention that there's a limit on hard limit on some of these raids too? It says there's a restriction up to 6 for the Ragnarok Plus, and nobody can use elixirs. That's pretty sadistic. I think the devs got sick of people trying to blow through crap, so that's probably why they did this. But anyways, again, 4 tier souls, going through the basic stuff. You need to be rank 100, and then on top of that, you also need to have certain stuff to go through. I'm going to sip and go through that page real quickly because I didn't do it in the last video. There is 5 steps to this. So, this is not an easy task. Well, I can't say it's hard either, but it is tedious. But first step, you need all these materials you see on screen. If you've noticed, some of them are in some very specific areas. First off, the cores. You need them from Ragnarok fights. From Ragnarok Advents. But don't worry, there's going to be Advents becoming permanent. And you can get the cores from that. They'll just be cycled through a little weekly thing, just like Epic Quest. The other materials. Storyline. They give us a reason to go grind that now. Because honestly, you don't really have any reason to grind storyline now that Epic Quest has come out. So, you can grind storyline now, finally. And you also need 100,000 gems. Stage 2. You need gold books. You need Adoan orbs. You need those holy crystals. I call them rocks, but they're really 3rd tier crystals, basically. And you need 150 of each fang. These fangs are probably going to be one of the troublesome items to get, because our access to them has been cut down dramatically. So keep that in mind. So you'll be grinding like SP quests like crazy, or you'll just have to wait until we get a better SP quest that will drop them a lot more frequently. Who knows? Don't forget you can trade for them in the shop as well. But you also need 200,000 gems for the 2nd stage. 3rd stage. Now then, if you guys have noticed on our side, we've gotten raid medals and you can trade for pages. That's where these books come in, because those pages, when traded for enough of them, turn into one of these little new, I call them rainbow books because of the rainbow background. We'll get a better chance at getting them later down the line, because there'll be another guardian which will drop pages, drop silver books, drop gold books. She'll even possibly drop the rainbow book outright, but the chances of that is lower than anything else we've aimed for. So there's that. But keep in mind that right now, it costs 150 pages to trade for one of these books. On DMM, it was 100. So I don't know if they're changing that or not. There's still a chance they could change it later down the line anyways, because they still got to implement another raid boss and whatnot. But for right now, I would say just rack up the pages, but don't get the books yet. Whenever it changes to 100 per book, then yeah, that's probably when you should spend on it. If it never does that, then unfortunately there's nothing I can really say about that. Either play the DMM side, or I don't know. But the English version of DMM also has the same amount, so I'm pretty sure they'll change it later on. It's a Japanese one that's got the 100, so. Also, you're going to need Orichalicon. If you cannot get it from guild order, there are other methods to do so, but you should still be strong enough to do guild order anyway. because eventually you're going to be able to do guild order, you're able to do ultimate level quests, you'll be able to do Ragnarok level raids. You may not be able to solo them on your own, so it depends on how strong you really are. But you should be able to do all the raids sufficiently. When I mean sufficiently, that means sticking in there, actually dealing a lot of damage and whatnot. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to solo, but you should deal a good chunk of damage and survive for a long time. If you can survive at least 20 turns in a Ragnarok or Guardian raid, then I'm pretty sure you're beefed up enough in order to handle those, even if you need help. But there's a lot of different sources you can get these Orichalcons from, so there you go. Raids included, because you can trade materials for them as well. That's why I mentioned the Ragnarok and the Guardians, because you can trade canvas and globes for those as well. But Holy Stars, honestly, you grind a lot of raids, you'll get these pretty easily. I've noticed that. You may even get those third tier rocks as well, but these stars tend to pop up in my inventory a lot now, so there you go. Speaking of something that can pop up in your inventory a lot, if you keep up with a lot of your raid grinding, and I mean the lower level ones, because the higher ones don't seem to really drop these, but if you keep up with your ultimates and below, then you should get a lot of these cores. So there's that too. You may eventually need to get more, but who knows. But you also need 300,000 gems for this next step as well, so you've already spent over 500,000 gems. Now then, Stage 4 is where it gets interesting. You need another one of those books. So, there you go. You need more Orichalcon this time around. You need a Dragonic Eye. Now, here's a reason why I mention raid medals so much. You can go buy a Dragonic Eye outright from raid medals. You get like one per month. You can also get shards on top of that too, but you can literally buy an eye once per month. So if you do enough grinding throughout all your raids, even a lower tier player can actually get one of these, because it takes about 500 raid medals, and you get raid medals from any raid, any of them. It doesn't seem like much per raid, but they do rack up over time. And then if you're opening up as many as you can, then you'll start racking them up pretty quickly, especially if you're hosting the raids and you manage to get Vicer or MVP. So there you go. You also start needing Regalia too, so start grinding the crap out of your ultimates. You may want to save up some Regalia too in order to open up other raids as well. So Regalia might actually be a little bit tricky, but it depends on how much you really grind. But you do need a lot of each element. You're going to need more later on too, because there's one other requirement that we'll go over when it happens. But 400,000 gems is needed right here, so you have spent 1,000,000 gems right now. Now, this is where it gets very, very difficult for a lot more players. And this too, you have to repeat, as far as I know, in order to get more copies of the Soul's weapon. So even if you unlocked them, you have to keep redoing this part. But here's the thing. When you unlock a 4th tier soul, the S rank ones, you have to have at least one copy of their weapon. One copy of their special weapons. That's another reason why it's important to pick which one you go after as well. This doesn't mean you can't use them on other elements, but this does mean that it is a requirement for Stage 5 to be done in order to do that. And Stage 5 is how you get more copies of their weapons anyways. That said, when you do this, it says weapons used as materials will be lost, and the new weapon will be at level 1 and skill level 1, but it will be in final break status. So that's pretty much what this is. It's turning one soul weapon into another one that can become more powerful. But keep in mind that the type of soul weapon you use in order to open up the new one is what type you're going to get. So say you go for Arthur's sword, then Charlemagne will get a sword. She won't get an axe. But anyways, the steps of doing this. Yeah, boy, this is where it gets a little bit tricky on the grind, because you need a lot of so much stuff. You need 3 of those books. And as far as I know, this is one of the most time-consuming items. So there's that. You need soul points based on what type of soul it is. If you're going for Parcel Asst, which is the 4th tier version of Morgan, or if you're going for Yuri Metsu, which is the 4th tier version of Shingen, then you need special soul points. Otherwise, you need the normal ones. You need another Draconic Eye. You need 20 more silver books, 10 more gold books, 150 more of those stars. You need 150 fangs of the attribute of the weapon you're going after. So if you're going after a light weapon, you need 150 light fangs. If you're going after a wind weapon, 150 wind fangs. That's how that works. Same thing with the canvas and the treasures, which we usually call globes. The canvas and the treasures also have to be the same element of the weapon that you're going after. So those last 3 are elemental specific. You don't have to get them across all the elements, but if you're going after all the weapons anyway, you might as well get 300 fangs of each element, 50 canvas of each element, and 50 globes of each element. So, but the more you do this, the more it's going to start eating away at your inventory. So keep that in mind. It may just be a better idea just to get a weapon for your main element first, then worry about the other ones later down the line, because you still got to unlock other souls as well. But you also need these 2 things as well to be very specific. 500,000 more gems. So you spend 500,000, and you're going to keep spending another 500,000 each time you go after a weapon. Because as far as I know, you don't have to repeat steps 1 through 4 if you unlock Yuri Metsu but want a different weapon for her. But at the same time, said weapon that's going to be foddered has to be at least available for final break limit. What that means is max its level, max its skill level. So level 125, skill level 20. This is practically a good summary of all the stuff you're getting. And some of this is elemental specific, so keep that in mind. But just know that this is insanely, like, the element you're aiming for, that needs 300 fangs. Otherwise, you need 150. The canvas and the treasures have to be the element you're aiming for, and the soul weapon has to be as well. Outside of that, the rest of this is just as is. And yeah, also, this, again, the soul points that you're using is dependent on which soul it is, so there's 2 of them that will need special. You see, here's if somebody went for Parcel Asst instead. Now suddenly they need special soul points and they need different materials. But this is one of the most tedious grinds, period, point blank. And quite frankly, if you really want to do good at this game, you're going to have to go through this anyways. There are people in DMM that has gotten all of the 4th tier souls. It probably took them a lot of grinding, but it's apparently doable. But most of them at this point have at least 2 or 3, so most of the long-time players on DMM can indeed get quite a few of them. It's just something that, take your time doing it and you'll be fine. If you want to rush it, it's okay, but you more or less need to pace yourself, basically, because it's very demanding, if you want to be honest. So if you try to rush it, then you'll probably get frustrated. So again, take your time on this one. Anyways, going into the ones that I left off at, we're going into Perseus, and she is the Mordred version of the Mordred T4 version, and she's a very interesting one from what I know. She is heavy on the debuffs, just like Mordred was, only these debuffs are a lot more powerful. This is one of the souls that can actually bring back damage over time, believe me when I say that. The question is if they can land or not. But anyways, first ability. Notice how it's got a 5-turn duration instead of a time limit. That's how some of these debuffs will work. And then it is not specific. It's not going to be it's specific to a player, so it's not going to be shared among a raid. Otherwise, it would completely break the game. But what this will do is put a deadly poison, a heavy fire. So it's I guess it's deep burns or so, a heavy burn or something. Deep drown, excessive rot, darkness, and this says fascination. That's really dizzy, or they call it dazzle, I do believe on DMM side. So notice how I said poison, burn, drown. Rot is putrefy, I do believe. These are stronger versions of them. They're not going to deal the pitiful 3,000, 4,000 damage. These deal a lot more damage, and you have them for 5 turns. I will go over the exact details further down. Now, for her second ability, you have one of these 3 choices. One of them is improve the rate of conditions and reduce the resistance on enemies. So what that means is it's going to increase your debuff chances and reduce the chances of them getting resisted from enemies. So it's going to really up your debuff rates at the same time. The second one, you can block off any debuff, and then it reduces the rate they can debuff you. So there's that. And then the third one, enemies have a debuff extension. It says turn extension. I don't know if it'll work for time. We'll see further down the line. But what that means is all that stuff that you get up top will actually run for a little bit longer. Now, the third one. This one increases the maximum charge turn on enemies. So that's, you already know what that basically does. The second one, it says charge to a single enemy. I think this one is I think this is the one debuff that will eat up orbs over time, but I'm not fully sure. I'll have to look further down. Like I said, we'll go over full details. The third one is dealing some sort of darkness effect. So I think that's another blind. It might be a stronger one. I don't know. And then her assist abilities. One is a combo rate increase when the enemy's debuffed, and it's even better when they got more debuffs. And there's another one where it says the enemy's attack and defense is down during normal attack, and it is permanent. So I'm guessing she'll either debuff them or it'll be an assist effect, kind of like how Raphael immediately spikes up your defense whenever somebody's got it was dizzy, I do believe. But anyways, going into the actual stuff. Now, first ability. This is what I'm talking about with how strong this stuff is. Remember how I said it was like 3,000, 4,000 damage or whatever? Each one is 50,000 damage per tick. This adds up. Because you can have 5 turns of this. And it is insane just how much it does. Not to mention, hitting you with the ability itself has already got a 300,000 soft cap. But taking into consideration, you have 4 of these that you're landing on somebody. So that is 200,000 damage over time per turn. You can land like 1,000,000 in that 5 turns. So the damage over time is really going to rack up. It is really going to rack up. Now, if there's anybody that's actually looking at this and I may have gotten that wrong, then let me know, because there's also the possibility it could have been 12,500, but from what I'm hearing, it's a lot of damage over time anyways. There's other Kamihime that do it too. But second ability. The first one, like I said, your chances of doing debuffs go up. The enemy's chances of resisting go down. That's enough said. I've also pretty much explained the second one, which is it will block a debuff and then also reduce the chances enemies can debuff you. So there's that. This one says extends the effects of a abnormal condition 2 turns. So what that means is that those debuffs up here, and apparently it was bugged at first, but these debuffs up here, instead of 5 turns, it's now 7 turns. And now we'll play into one of our weapons later on, so keep that in mind. Now going into third skills, increases maximum charge and a 250,000 soft cap. Enough said. This one says charges 2 turns and 250,000 soft cap. If I'm correct, this definitely is the one that's because we already have a Kamihime called Percule who does this type of effect, and it eats up an orb for 2 turns. It prevents them from gaining one for 2 turns, so it's really like a double orb eat. But it's an effect of a debuff, not a direct decrease. Now, this one is, this third skill is 300,000 soft cap, and it says darkness. So it says this is user specific that prevents any normal attacks from landing. So that means it's probably a guaranteed blind. So there you go. Now going into this stuff right here, the assist abilities, it's pretty much saying that it's roughly 4% combo increase every time a debuff is applied, so that's not bad. And then the other one, it says it's it says 10% attack, and it says persistence during regular attacks. If I'm reading this correctly, that means she has an innate persistence as long as either her or the enemy's doing a normal attack. I can't really tell. Somebody might want to help me out with that one in the comments, because sometimes the wiki is not exactly clear, especially when Google translates in the mix. But it's still a welcome assist ability because it's already up in her attack power anyway. So there you go. Now then, her heroic weapons. This one says that it's removing one buff effect whenever she bursts. The translate's got this looking weird, but it's removing one buff effect when she bursts. So she'll start eating away at the enemy's buffs. Now, this is where things get a little bit interesting. Her offensive weapon says reduce the interval of multiple erosion by 3 turns. That said, her first skill can be used every 5 turns. You can get 100% uptime without even using this effect extension. Or you can even use the effects extension if you want, and it'll make it a 7-turn duration, and then maybe you might be able to recast it. Who knows? You might actually have some Kamihime that can reduce the uses interval again. But quite frankly, that weapon makes this skill, if you ask me, completely useless. You do not need to use this 12-turn cooldown skill. You just get 5 turns cooldown on your first one, and there you go. It'll have 100% uptime as long as it keeps landing. The HP weapon. It says here's condition grant rate 1.2 times. So that means that her debuff chances, like all of this stuff, is probably going to get a 20% increase in success chance. Now, I'm not exactly sure how that fully works, because I don't know if it's a literal multiplier of what it is. Like, say, okay, you have a 60% chance, so it's times 1.2, and it will make it 72% chance because it will add 12%. Or if it's a direct additive increase, so the 20% will end up being 80%. Honestly, I think it's multiplicative, because if it's additive, then you can really spike your stuff up to 100%, and it's not really But that's something that wasn't exactly clear in a lot of data, so there you go. But overall, she's practically the autopilot soul, and she's very, very good at debuffing. So here's the thing. Like I said, there's going to be content later on that makes you pretty reliant on doing things without debuffs, so she will be completely crippled in that fight. I'm pretty sure of that. That said, outside of it, she's probably worthwhile getting if you want an easier time grinding some things, because like I said, she is made for auto ability battle, as is all the Mordred line. It's honestly up to you if you really want to get her, but me personally, I wouldn't get her first. I would get others first. Now, this next one, honestly, she interests me quite a bit, and I'm tempted to get her first, but I'm still going to get Medea first. But this is Kaspar, and she is the 4th tier D'Artagnan. She's got a very interesting kit, and she's probably one of the most well-rounded souls in the game. But anyways, let's get into what she does. First things first, her snatch is damage dealing. Remember how there is snatch second, snatch third, and all those different other snatch abilities? Well, her version of it is damage dealing. So, and it hits all enemies too. And even though it's got a 5-turn cooldown, that can easily be manipulated. But anyways, going into her second set of abilities, like the set of abilities for a second slot, she can she can recover HP, increase her attack, and increase her defense. I don't even need to look down at the bottom for the attack and defense thing, but I don't know the HP recovery, so we'll go into that one. But here's a catch. If you have 6 levels of snatch on an enemy or more, this becomes AoE. That's where it gets very interesting. The second one of this, it says various effects on all allies. The effect time is extended according to the snatch depth. So that's definitely going to need to go down bottom, and actually you're going to have to wait until I get into that one. Unfortunately, I can't really explain too much on that one. This next one is interesting because I already know what it's going for. It says instantly use Snatch Angler, and it consumes 10 bursts. So for 10 bursts, you can use our first skill again. Now, I don't know if it either A, takes it off cooldown, or B, it just uses it regardless of the cooldown. But that's got an interesting little effect. Now then, going into her third skills. Attack defense down for all enemies, extra large. I don't need to look at this one. This is 30%, so there you go. D'Artagnan needed a weapon in order to get to 30%. This one's just a flat-out B-frame 30% attack defense debuff, so there you go. This next one. It says fixed damage, defense down on one enemy, and is cumulative. Reuse intervals shortened based on snatch depth. She gets a stackable defense down. And the more snatch layers you get, the more you can do to an enemy. Honestly, its snatch depth is kind of like the inverse of the effect time. It will be the reuse interval will be. So it starts off at 10. I can explain this right now. It starts off at 10. Each level of snatch that you get will sit and reduce it. So when you max it out, it's going to be reusable every turn. And then this last one, it's pretty much the same as the one from her second slot, only instead of consuming 10 bursts, it consumes 5% of her max HP. So there you go. And her assist abilities increases the chance to snatch. The reuse interval shortens, so that's not going to really be 4. I mean, that's not really going to be 5 turns. I think it's going to be 4. And then the second one, special attack and combo rate increase based on the snatch depth, which means you will start up at another multiplier. Now, let's go over everything that it says. This is why this is actually pretty important to know about this snatch ability, because this is actually a pretty strong damage nuke if you really keep using it. The damage, the multiplier you get is based on the snatch depth of an enemy, but at the same time, and it is based on who you target too. So even though it's AoE, you need to target the one that's got the most snatch landed on them. But anyways, this goes up to a soft cap of 500,000. And keep in mind, she can use other stuff to be able to recast this. So that's where this is actually pretty interesting to use her as a damage dealer if you want. She's got that flexibility. Now, second abilities. That one where she buffs herself and also heals, the buff is 50% attack and defense. On top of that, 1800 HP recovery. If you happen to get 6 snatch theft on an enemy, then well, this is going to end up being over your entire party. So imagine a 50% assault buff and a 50% defense buff on everyone. This is one of the main reasons why people get her. This second one, it says up to 5 turns based on the snatch depth. So if you have no snatch depths landed, then it won't work on that one. But if you have 3 to 4 snatch depth landed, then that's where it starts getting like at least some usage. But going into full details, first off, this is a this buffs triple. This buffs sneak attack, and this also buffs attack and defense. So it's like a 20% attack and defense by the looks of this, a 20% triple rate, and a 30% stinger buff. But going into how long it lasts, 1 or 2, and if you got 1 or 2 snatches landed, then it's 1 turn. 3 to 4 is 2 turns, 5 to 6 is 3 turns, 7 to 8 is 4 turns, and if you got the full 9, it's 5 turns. If you didn't land any, useless. It's a slow start, but it'll build up over time. But quite frankly, her first one's probably better. This is probably better than that other one as well. Immediate activation of the first one. So here's the thing. It will quickly get you to snatch depth 9. And you got 2 options to actually put this on here. Or if you want, because this is usable every turn, keep that in mind. Or if you want, you can combine this with the one from the 3rd slot and just start triple casting the snatch. It will make her a damage dealer. It will make her an ability damage dealer, because you'll be able to do that every turn. You'll eventually need somebody to heal her, and her burst gauge may or may not rise. But since it's only taking 10, it's not really that consuming. But just keep in mind, and her combo rate goes up whenever you'll start landing more and more, along with the special attack. So it's going to start dealing more and more damage later on. But this makes her a decent ability nuker too. Not as good as Medea, but it gives her the ability to do that. So that said, I won't even go into the third 3C, which they call it, because of the fact that it's the same thing, only 5% HP. But combining 2C with 3C will definitely make that it will definitely make her a rapid fire ability nuker, considering that you can set up a nuke twice every turn at the very least. But the first one in the 3rd slot, again, like I said, 30%. 30% is a strong debuff amount anyways, but it's starting to become fairly more common later down the line, so there you go. The second one, 250,000 soft cap, and if you can max out the snatch count, then you will get 1 turn cooldown on this, which means you can keep stacking it. I don't know how much it is, but keep in mind that this is the first stackable defense debuff that anyone can get access to. So there you go. And And yeah, the assist ability, anything that uses snatch is 1 turn. Quite frankly, you can get the EX one for you can get the EX one from D'Artagnan, or if you really want, there's a nuke that D'Artagnan has where it's based on how much snatch you land on somebody. So that said, you can make Kaspar even more of a damage dealer. So there's that. But this second one, it says the special attack is the snatch step times 3, so it's almost up to 30%. And then they don't have too much on the combo rate, but there you go. But that said, you can see why this one just has a complete interest in me, because of the fact that she has such a well-rounded kit. If you ask me, she's one of the safer bets in order to go for 4-tier souls. I would still say pick Medea over her, but there's nothing wrong with getting Kaspar. The only thing is the fact that she's rooted to using guns, so that said, if you don't have guns across every element, then you're really not going to get the most out of her. But even then, she's still a safe bet to go after easily. Okay, Shama. She is 4th tier Hercules, and honestly, there's a bit of a thing about her, because a lot of people are trying to say that she's not really worth it, and me personally, I'd say that's subjective to the person that believes it or not. I mean, she does have potential, but it depends. It's really weird. You'll see what I mean, though. Because the thing is, she's like Herc and can really hit soft caps very quickly on her own. But because she can hit soft caps, if you're already doing it naturally, then yeah, maybe she's a waste. But anyways, and I have to point out before I even get into this, the whole point of the Hercules line is to pretty much make them a warrior worth many. And depending on how strong you are, she could be worth 3, maybe even 4 people on your team, just like Hercules, but who knows. But when you start getting stronger, the Hercules line starts getting a little bit weaker, if it makes sense. But, anyways, first skill. This is just like Hercules, this nuke deals damage based on how many buffs she has. The thing is, it's got better multipliers than what Herc does. And I've already did a little playing around and whatnot on Hercules. I've already gotten almost a 2 million damage nuke. So this one will probably easily go past that if I ever get her. Now then, for second slot, first ability. She increases her own attack. And it says basic attack performance. And it also grants pursuit. So I think it's going to deal extra hits as well. I'll go more over what that is, but I think it ups her, I think it might actually up her soft cap for normal attacks. The second one increases her own burst gauge and the burst performance. This is stackable, but it takes out 10% of her max HP. And the third one, stackable, ups her special attack. So she's got access to another multiplier very, very easily. But if that wasn't enough, third slot, first skill, ups her defense, gives her vigor, barrier, and regeneration. Vigor is another multiplier. She's got access to 2 different multipliers aside from assault and elemental out the gate. And since you need to use a weapon in order to unlock her anyways, and the axe is probably better, you're probably getting elemental anyway. But second skill in the third slot. 20% damage cut. She gets counterattack, patience, and indomitable. This will make her stupidly tanky. Just from patience, it makes her stupidly tanky. But she's got a 20% damage cut for 5 turns on top of this. Yeah. And this last one, stackable defense up. And also recovers her HP. So honestly, if you are consuming 10% of your max HP, then yeah, this one could be combined with it to help you out. But it depends on what you may or may not have on your team. But also, she gets a permanent combo buff and resistance buff. And also, any abilities that she has gets a 1-turn cooldown reduction. This is why I didn't say 4-turn, 3-turn, all that type of stuff, because all those numbers, all these usage interval numbers, reduce them by 1. But anyways, let's go over all this type of stuff. With a lot of stacking and whatnot, her first skill, they're saying it can easily do like 2.8 million in one hit. This is ability damage. It does take some build up, but still. If you're doing most damage in one hit, then yeah, she'll definitely come into play. But if you need to do a lot of damage over time, then she's probably not. Now then, this first one, it says the upper limit of the normal attack is increased, but the attack buff is also supposedly 100%. So she's really spiking her assault. This burst performance, they don't have the exact amount, but it will give her 40 burst gauge every 2 turns. It can make her extremely quick. It will start eating away at her HP, but it can make her pretty much a second Lug. Now, the third one, it says stackable special attack. Nobody really has any details on this, but it also says that if you haven't reached the soft caps, this is a quick way to do so. Now, this next one, it doesn't have the exact defense increase and the exact vigor increase, but the barrier is 2,000 and the HP regen is 300. Now, going back into the duration amount, that means she'll get 1,500 HP back, along with a barrier that lasts for quite a long time. The fact that it's got vigor, though, oh boy. Vigor is something I've used quite a bit, and it's well worth. Anyways, going into the second skill, the cut, the counterattack, the patience. The counterattack, I think that's a pride version of that, because counterattack is usually mentioned as a pride buff. Patience is kind of like pride, but with defense. And it gets insane when your HP starts dropping. When your HP drops very low, patience can get up to like maybe 900% defense increase. That is like 1/10 of the damage. And then indomitability prevents her from dying anyways. So there you go. And the last one, again, they don't have the defense amount, but the HP recovery is 1,500. So there's that. But anyways, this one, I think they got a typo here. It says triple attack, triple attack. It's probably supposed to be double and triple. But double, triple, and debuff resistance are always given as a buff. These cannot be removed. And then the last one is the same as Hercules, cooldown -1. Now, of course, our weapons is pretty much like the same as Hercules too. 25% defense drop in the Adolin frame when you burst. Well, up to that much anyways. Well, no, it seems like it's going to be that anyway, because these weapons stay in final break status, so yeah. But it's 180 seconds, so there you go. Now, this axe weapon always increases the chance of sneak attacks. So, it gives a buff, and it's permanent. It just doesn't go to other characters. And then this HP one, it says the upper limit of recoverable effect is always plus 200%. So it says our recovery amount is always tripled. I don't know if that's necessarily worth or not, because honestly, if you're getting Ascension, some elements are pretty good at it, you won't need it anyways. So if you are going for it, it's probably going to be the axe. It's probably going to be the axe. Especially since the axe is upping the elemental attack by 40% anyways. Combined with the fact that she can get special attack and vigor, she can start shooting way past the soft caps. Because quite frankly, her first skill has got a soft cap of about 1,000,000. And the most you can increase is plus 100%. So it should have a 200 million soft cap. I mean, not 200 million, a 2 million soft cap. At the same time, they're saying you can deal almost 3 million with it. That's more proof that you can shoot way past ability soft caps. Which is the other reason why I suggest Medea. But honestly, she's interesting if you can use her. And quite frankly, I think one thing that holds her back is indeed the soft caps. If she was able to surpass those, or had some special stuff that wasn't affected by the soft cap increase, then maybe she actually could be worth a lot more. But we'll see, because supposedly she's one of the ones that's getting reworked later on. We'll find out. If she does indeed get reworked, I'll probably end up doing a follow-up video. But Parcel Asst. Honestly, I say she's interesting, but not enough. Because there's quite a few discrepancies with her kid. But anyways, first off, combo rate of all allies up, burst gauge increase, a burst gauge decrease, like a burst gauge rate decrease, and it's stackable. That means you will start comboing more, but your burst gauge will start filling up slower. This next ability, which is the first one of her second slot, it says runaway granted to all allies. This is rampaging, and it's for 3 turns, so there you go. The second one, it says enhances allies, puts barriers, but it consumes 20 bursts on everybody. She loves eating away at your burst gauge. Remember that. Or at least eating away at your HP looking at the next few abilities. But this one puts counterattack and indomitability on all allies. But because it's giving counterattack, that means it's should be a pride buff. So it may have some usage, but who knows. Now for the third slot, first ability, everybody instantly does a basic attack. Now what that means is you can still combo. And it takes away 20% of their HP as well. These next two, I don't know what insult is, so we'll look at it. Spread, I do know it makes all their hits AoE. So honestly, if there's multiple enemies, that spread can really do some damage. Since everybody's getting spread for 3 turns. Now, her assist abilities is kind of interesting because this first one, I honestly like the concept. Ups everybody's defense when you equip her with a staff. Gives everybody regen when you equip her with arcane weapon. So that gives you a bit of flexibility on that assist ability. I like that actually. I honestly like having options, so that's interesting. And the second one, abilities can be used during Rampage. I don't know if it works on others, but it should work on her. That means even if you slap Rampage on her, you can still sip and make everybody do an immediate attack and then sip and do it again. That's mainly what that ability is for. Either to do that or to sip and safeguard, okay, I might have screwed up, but I can still use abilities. Now, there's a lot of disadvantages to some of her abilities, so you really have to pay attention to what you're doing. So let's start going over all this stuff. It says burst gauge down for this first one, so honestly, unless you have direct burst gauge increases, this is going to hurt you later down the line. Well, it's going to hurt you regardless, but still. This one, it says that everybody gets a 50% multiplier increase in the rampaging frame, which is technical. It says it's less than Morgan, but quite frankly, I think you can work around it. It just depends on how creative you are with some of your stuff. But anyways, this next one eats up 20 burst gauge from everybody, but it gives them vigor and barrier. But the problem is, if she's eating away HP, vigor is kind of useless. So I had to call out on that one. If you're using her 3A ability with this, vigor is going to drain very fast because you're already losing about maybe half your vigor just off of one usage of 3A. Vigor stops working when you have half HP or lower, so 20% is a very costly measure for that. Speaking of percentage HP, eats up 15% HP for counterattack and indomitability. Honestly, the indomitability can give you a little bit of help. It means nobody's going to die. As long as indomitability is up, that means nobody is going to die. So it's actually got some possible use. And then with the counterattack, when you lose HP, counterattack starts getting stronger. So that's what that's about. Third skills, 3A. 20% HP and immediately does normal attacks. If anybody's got combo rate increases, you can sip and do a lot. However, if anyone doesn't meet any of the requirements for these previous skills, like the burst gauge or the HP or whatever, you cannot use those skills I just mentioned. So keep that in mind. Now this one, it says 20% follow-up. Okay, so follow-up means it's going to end up doing an extra hit on your stuff. So honestly, that combined with a few of our other effects could actually have some use. It depends. The third one, of course, there's enough said. It's going to pretty much split your. It's going to pretty much just like make your damage widespread. Period. Point blank. No matter what you do with normal attacks, widespread damage. And then, of course, the assist ability. The HP recovery is. It says it has a 150 regenerate, but it's 250 when you got the arcane. So it seems like it's going to It seems like it possibly gives you a regen regardless, but it ups it if you use an arcane. I'd probably just go with the defense if that's the case. But the weapon, when you burst, it says attract. I think that's what it's going to do, just draw attention to herself. The second one, it says the probability of reusing the abilities 2, 3, and anything with 3 will be reduced with a combo attack. I don't know what this says, honestly. But from the sound of things, it gives a cooldown reduction if it triggers on some of these things. I could be wrong. That alone kind of makes it seem a little bit worth it if you're going to go her route. And of course, Sage's Stone recovery limit up. Okay, so what I think this means is if you use an arcane weapon, she'll get the 150 recovery rate. If you use her soul weapon that's arcane, then it's 250. That's what that probably means. I would still get the defense one anyways. That region is way too small to really worry about it too much. I mean, it's an AoE region that's up there at all times, but at the same time, you need 4 turns to get 1,000 HP, and at this point in the game, most people probably have a good 15, 20,000. So, good luck. But anyways, on to the final one, and this is the one that a lot of people have been waiting on, Yuri Metsu. But I will say this out the gate, if you do not have the right kind of team, Yuri Metsu is going to end up being weaker than Shingen, so be very careful of your setups. I have to say that out the gate. I've been told that quite a few times. Yuri Metsu, she is strong, she is fast, but if you don't have the right setups, she is crap compared to Shingen. So you do need to do your research on your teams and all that. But anyways, starting off out the gate, every 4 turns she can deal damage and then summon a ghost. Ghosts are her main gimmick, so keep that in mind. 2A. I'm going to start calling it like that. I should have been doing that from the get-go. Everybody's combo rate and burst gauge increases. Honestly, this could be useful if you're not using some other different effects. Now, the second one, it says increase the burst gauge gauge for yourself and allies. I think this is a direct increase. And I think the first one was a buff, but I'm not sure. Now, this third one, it says summon a ghost and deal damage. It's the same as the first one, only it's got a longer cooldown. If you're really trying to get some more ghost build up, then maybe this could help you out. Now, here's where things get very interesting. Her first one in the third slot, it will eat up all ghosts and increase the burst performance of allies. You are probably not going to use this one. It is provisional forest, but at the same time it eats up ghosts. If you want to be honest, you should be able to put provisional force in the EX slot if you really want that one, but you shouldn't need provisional force if you're using her. You should deal enough damage in order to hit the burst soft caps on your own to make the most of her. Second ability, there is no cooldown on this, but if she has 2 ghosts, you can make her burst immediately, and it doesn't even eat up the gauge she has. So that's going to be a very interesting ability, and you'll probably use that if you do not use this next one. All allies immediately trigger burst, consumes 5 ghosts. So you can either insta burst with her on 2 ghosts or insta burst with allies on 5 ghosts. And the 5 ghost one has a cooldown. So yeah. Also, this first one, honestly, I don't like how that name translated. I'm not even going to say it, but burst gauge maximum value up. What this means is that she gets 200 burst gauge instead of 100. And it may not, yeah, as far as I know, it doesn't eat up more than 100 per burst if you burst normally. So it's not one of those types where it's like, okay, it'll increase her damage based on how much she consumes. But this ability right here, this assist ability, summon a ghost at the start of the battle. Combo rate increased based on the number of ghosts. One of her weapons is going to come into play with that one later on, but you can already see out the gate that anybody can pretty much pick her up, get this, take the first skill, summon a ghost, and then your third skill can just go off and make her burst it instantly. I've already gave you some setup on that one. But anyways, honestly, the Shingen line always had kind of low ability damage, but I'm glad some of it's actually got a bit buffed. So anyways, here's what you've got. First skill, 250,000 soft cap, and of course, like I said, some is a ghost. But since it's got some cooldown and whatnot, getting 5 ghosts with just that alone can actually take a moment. Now, this first one in the second slot, double attack rate is plus 25, triple attack rate is plus 15%, burst gauge increase is plus 30%, which means if you hit for 10, you get 13. If you hit 3 times, you're getting 39. That's why I say you might use that, because here's the second one. Increases burst gauge of yourself and allies by 30%. So that means it will target one person and it ups their burst gauge along with your own. You may also use this one too. If your team is fast enough as is, you'll probably end up doing this. Otherwise, the first one might actually work. But chances are you're probably using this 2B if you're not using the 2C, which is a 400,000 soft cap, but also eats up another ghost. I mean, also brings up another ghost, not eats up. Speaking of eating up ghosts, 3A. Its damage up is based on how many ghosts you eat up. So it says you get up to 200%. And then on top of that, the damage limit, as in the soft cap, is also increased based on how many ghosts you eat up. So max power, you can get like 200% burst damage and 25% burst soft cap increase. But like I said, you probably would want to get strong enough to do that on your own. Me personally, I'm almost at that point anyways. I can do it with some buffing, but I still need to get more damage output on my team. This second one consumes 2 ghosts and immediately triggers burst. Enough said. It can do a lot of damage. It can speed things up because keep in mind that everybody else gets burst gauge whenever someone bursts. So it can indeed make teams faster. And this next one, everybody gains 100 burst gauge, period point blank, whenever you eat up 5 ghosts. This allows you to pretty much double full burst out the gate in burst time. You can even triple or do even more. And quite frankly, I have Light Nikke. She's kind of niche, but this is one of the times where you can actually use her on top of Yuri and step and do like 4, maybe 5 full bursts in a row. Because of Nikke's little shrine system thing. I forgot what they are. Shrine amulets. And then Yuri's ghosts. Yeah. And like I said, the assist ability, burst gauge becomes 200, activation is still 100. So if you max it out, or if burst time pops up, you got 2 of them right out the gate, just with her. And the combo rate increase is not really explained here, so unfortunately we don't know. And her weapon, when she bursts, she gets 30 burst gauge, so she'll start really... You're starting to see why she can get so much speed. The spear, which is the elemental attack weapon, gives you 2 extra ghosts out the start. So if you use that weapon and 2C, you can use 3C instantly. You already see where that's going. And for the bow, whenever she bursts, everybody gets their special attack power increased. It's not much. It really isn't. So quite frankly, I really wouldn't take this HP weapon. Maybe you might have a grid setup that needs a bow, but I probably wouldn't take the HP weapon. It's probably the spear you're going to want. Because you got like 3 ghosts at the start, can get a 4th, and you can sit and just either get an ability to get that 5th for this instant AoE full burst, or just get the 0 turn off twice. So, yeah. But anyways, you're starting to see why Yuri is well sought after. Honestly, there are tons on DMM that have her. And if you ask me, she's got the potential to really do massive amounts of damage. I think there's a debate on who's better between her and Medea, but quite frankly, things could still change later down the line, but as long as there's a burst meta, Yuri's probably going to be better. But Medea's easier to use and has little to no drawback. This one does have drawbacks because of the ghost system thing, because that's going to slow you down once you start running out of ghosts. But as long as you do have the ghosts, she's going to be very powerful. But anyways, that's all for this. This video's gone on long enough because I've done 2 videos basically, and they're both like around an hour at this point. But like I said, if anything changes with these souls, I will indeed do a follow-up video, because DMM was mentioning a potential rebalance, and well, if they do the same thing as before, that means Herculine is actually going to get another rebalance, and that might actually be Parcel Shama back into the limelight. So, who knows? But it goes without saying too, you also need to get quite a lot of soul points based on who you're trying to unlock to, and still max out, of course, the souls that the land is before it. So if you want Hector, max out Siegfried. If you want Parcel Asst, max out Mordred. But this list right here has a lot of their the points you need on top of the 5th stage effect. So it's not going to be cheap. And the reason why I didn't mention any of these master bonuses either is because of the fact that they're pretty much standard. You should know what they do at this point. The leveling ones as well. I mean, the leveling ones are interesting to know, but at the same time, you're going to pretty much have them anyway, so it's a master bonus that you may not have, because you're going to, if you want all the master bonus, you got to get every single soul. So unfortunately, if you want max potential, you're unlocking all 10. But anyways, that's all for this. Like I said, more is going to come soon, because there's some stuff that we probably will have to go over if they do not change it on the Nutaku side. And then, like I said, potential rebalance. So, there you go. And it goes without saying, these souls do have scenes. I haven't seen any of them, but they do have lewd scenes. So, look forward to that if you're playing the 18 plus side. But anyways, that's all for this. More is going to come soon, and take care.